Keepers. I'm the host, Paige DeMacos, here with Chris Schubert, and we are talking fantasy football today. I know that yesterday we did some ice cream and running backs, which was really, really fun. But now we're going to talk about actual fantasy football. Chris, let's start off with your overall themes and how you think it's going so far.
Not going great. I mean, so far you're seeing not a lot of teams score a lot of points, and offense is not really reigning supreme here in the first couple of weeks. I think I mentioned this on Tuesday. You got touchdowns being down, you have overall points being down, and you have field goals being up, which screams to me, load up on all the kickers and defenses that you can. But realistically, I mean, don't give up on any of your players just yet. I know it's really easy. You may have started the year 0-2 because some of your picks didn't really pan out, but you got to stay the course here because I think we're seeing something a little bit different this year. I don't think I can remember a fantasy season starting off this weird with so many big players not producing points right away.
I think the issue here is more overall. It's the fact that there's been so many injuries, and there's always injuries throughout the fantasy football season, but it does seem that this year, specifically with a lot of major guys, I think of David Johnson right off the top of my head, the number one overall pick around fantasy football is now out for pretty much the entire fantasy football season. There are a lot of other injuries. Jordy Nelson, one of the guys picked to be a top, is probably going to sit this week. We've had some quarterback injuries, and it's tough. When you are a fantasy football player, you now need to look to your bench. So this is where you get tested. This is where we see how good of a fantasy football player you are. Chris, how's your bench looking so far? Because I know mine looks pretty good.
Well, my bench took a major hit because Corey Coleman was my fourth wide receiver that I was cycling into my flex position, maybe inside my wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2. He went down. I lost Corey Coleman this week, which was a huge blow. So what I decided to do, because apparently he's still available, I picked up Eric Decker. Off of the waiver wire. It cost me $10 in my auction league to pick him up. So I picked him up, slot him into the flex. I bumped Jamison Crowder up to the wide receiver 3 spot this week. I may flip those guys before the week is over. But I look at the team that I'm playing this week, and just to go to your point of injuries, this guy has Cam Newton, Odell Beckham Jr., and Rob Gronkowski, all with the little red Q's next to their name for this week, while on my side I don't have any red letters. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm really dealing with a lot of injuries, underperformances in our league for the podcast. We have Le'Veon Bell, and he's not producing for us right now. Antonio Brown still hasn't caught a touchdown for me yet, and I've only been able to have Jameis Winston for 1 week. So it's been an up and down kind of season for me. I'm hoping that it kind of levels out here. I think this is the week where everything kind of evens itself out, and you can look at your team and be like, all right, this works, this doesn't, need to make some additions.
Usually by week 3 or week 4 in the NFL, you have a better idea of what is going on, and overall, not just with fantasy, but what you can expect from your specific teams and what you're going to look forward to. Now, I think you brought up a great point, Chris. When you're looking and you see all those Q's next to the names of the players on your team, you get very worried.
You get nervous.
And that's guys like Cam Newton, and we're going to talk about him a little later on in the show and whether we're going to start or sit him this week. But I do want to get to a couple of Twitter questions that were submitted to us earlier today. So, Chris, the first one I'll start with is a hometown team question, and that's Monday Night Football. So you need to make that decision rather early, because if you're going to start one of those guys, you kind of got to have a backup guy in the mind.
Yep.
And this is 2 Cardinals players.
Okay.
With John Brown out, would you start J.J. Nelson or Jerron Brown? I know who I would start, but I'll let you answer first.
So I do want to give us credit, tip of the cap to both of us, for questions that were submitted last week. We told, I forget who it was, to not play Darren McFadden, and Darren McFadden didn't play in the game against Denver last week. So we're doing pretty good on these questions. I think it has to be the reigning NFC Offensive Player of the Week, right? I mean, until J.J. Nelson proves to you that he's not, he's the 3rd best wide receiver right now in terms of fantasy with that production. If he continues what he did last week, and it is a big question mark. He needs to prove it. But Jerron Brown is still coming off of that knee injury, and I don't know if I've seen enough from him to think he's fully 100%. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem like he is. And J.J. Nelson has the numbers to back it up. And yeah, you worry about him because he does have a tendency to have a really good week and then a really bad week, but he's coming off of a really good week. He's really their only other wide receiver outside of Larry Fitzgerald. Carson Palmer is going to get him the ball. He probably has a trust factor with him now. I mean, J.J. Nelson technically caught 2 touchdown passes. A challenge took the other one away. So there's obviously a trust level there. That means Carson will go to J.J. Nelson a lot. So I think this is easy. I think it's J.J. Nelson.
Yeah, this is an easy one. I agree with you. I think you got to start J.J. Nelson, and you're starting him throughout the season because John Brown, as long as John Brown's out, J.J. Nelson's going to be the long-term guy there that you're going to want to be starting for the Arizona Cardinals. Now let's get to some of these other questions. There is an injury, the injury bug that we were talking about. Rob Kelly in Washington. Now, Chris Thompson Thompson had a really good week last week, but one of the rookies we talked about at the beginning of the season, Samaje Perine. This guy is asking, this is Mario on Twitter, and he wants to know, this week, he's in a PPR league, would you start Thompson or would you start Perine?
PPR league, I think it has to be Thompson. A lot of Perine's carries, at least in the early goings, are going to be runs. He had 21 total carries in that game. Thompson is, even if they workload more for Perine, Thompson's still going to get touches in the backfield because they're still trying to figure out their wide receiver core there in Washington. Kirk Cousins is trying to get used to everybody there. They brought in Terrell Pryor. He's coming along slowly. Jamison Crowder's been up and down. Jordan Reed, who didn't practice yesterday but is now practicing today, if he goes down, Kirk Cousins is going to need to look to another options. I think both are easy plays. I think you're going to play both of those guys this week. But in a PPR league, I lean more towards Thompson because he's going to be used more out of the backfield in the passing game, and he's shown consistently that he's able to do that.
Chris, when do we agree?
This is 2 for 2 on the show that we've been
leave me a high five.
That's good.
I think Chris is getting smarter.
I'm
Chris
learning.
Is starting to
I'm
listen
learning
to
what works and what doesn't.
He's really starting to listen for those target words. But Chris Thompson is the guy you got to start in a PPR league just because of who he is as a back. And you saw Samaje Perine get a lot of touches, but in a PPR league, how the scoring works, Chris Thompson's going to be your guy. Now, here's the overall question. This one comes from M.A. Martinez on Twitter, and he wants to know
M.A. Martinez.
What to do with Jordan Howard. He said he is the 2017 version of Eddie Lacy. Hold the phone there.
Okay.
Bud. Hold the phone.
Paige would know a thing or two about yelling about Eddie
I know
Lacy.
about Eddie Lacy. Do not call him.
I'm here to tell
relax.
you, if you did not listen to our Pigskin with Pancake show for week 2 on Sunday, you missed out on some really valuable information about Jordan Howard because when we talked about the Bears offense, we said Jordan Howard got more touches in that offense than Tariq Cohen did. He touched the ball more. And Tariq Cohen's going to have his moments, and he's going to have his flashes, and he has the special teams game as well, and he did fumble once over the weekend in special teams. Jordan Howard is still going to get the ball there. They don't have any other weapons in Chicago outside of those 2 backs. They have no wide receivers. I don't even know if I can name a wide receiver there.
No, you can't.
These are the 2 guys that they're going to lean on. So, yes, you look at what Tariq Cohen's done, and you're like, oh, my gosh, if I'm a Jordan Howard owner, I'm in a lot of trouble. No, you're not. The touches, the snap counts, all indicate that Jordan Howard is still a vital member of this offense. He is still going to be used. And if you have him, you should absolutely play him this week.
Here's the other issue. You have to look at what happened last week with the Chicago Bears. They go down big time very, very early.
And what happens when you do that?
You're going to try and force the ball. You're going to try and throw the ball. Exactly. So Jordan Howard is still going to be the guy. I know the concern is Jeremy Langford last year was supposed to be the guy. Jordan Howard comes in and starts taking those touches away. I know it kind of seems that way with Tariq Cohen, but for reasons like Chris said, with Chicago, they need both of these guys in their offense because they don't have anybody else. Yeah, they really do not. They don't have any wide receivers.
They're going to get the ball one way or another, and Jordan Howard is just going to have to he's going to have to make it work with the touches that he is going to get, and I think he will. I really do.
Now, Chris, I know we have a special guest this week, and I want you to tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
So we have a surprise for everybody, and we're going to do this right now. So our friends over at thefantasydoctors.com, they cover all of the fantasy injuries from an injury perspective. They break down all these things, give you accurate timetables, that kind of stuff. It's really great. So Dr. Seelan Parekh joined us this week. He gave us a breakdown of some of the biggest injuries in fantasy football. So Dr. Parekh, take it away.
Hi, I'm Dr. Seelan Parekh, the Fantasy Doctor with thefantasydoctors.com, giving you an injury update as we have had a slew of injuries this week. About 19 key position players have been injured. So we're going to go through a bunch of these and do rapid-fire injury updates. Greg Olsen has a Jones fracture. Jones fracture is a fracture of the 5th metatarsal base. A screw was placed into that. It usually requires 9 weeks optimal return time, although athletes do come back at 6 to 8 weeks. If he comes back early, don't be surprised if he needs a second surgery in the off season. Also, it may affect his performance if he comes back earlier than 9 weeks. Sam Bradford. Lots of controversy going on with Sam Bradford. He had 2 ACLs reconstructed over the last few years, the last one being in 2014. There was some controversy of whether this was inflammation in the knee, but this week we found out he's dealing with a bone bruise within the knee. That will affect his ability to play. Video from practice today shows that he's really not pushing through the knee, not flexing the knee a lot, so I would be surprised if he plays this week. Look for another 2, maybe 3 or 4 weeks for him to return to play. Keep a close eye on what's going on with him. Corey Coleman had a fracture of his metacarpal. The metacarpals are in the middle of your hand here. He had a plate put on it with screws. He is on the IR, 6 weeks for him to start practicing. He is out at least 6 weeks. Jordan Reed has a chest contusion. First reports were that it was at the AC joint. The latest suggestion is it might be at the sternoclavicular joint, which is right about here, causing a lot of pain. Good news is you can get an injection into that right before the game to calm down the inflammation, calm down the pain, which should allow him to play this weekend. I don't imagine this affects his play at all. Jordy Nelson has a quad contusion. The quad are a group of muscles in the front of the thigh, right above the knees, where he had a helmet hit him, giving him that contusion where blood kind of bleeds into this muscle. He's got a 50-50 shot to play, depending on pain and the ability for him to run, jump, and be agile. He may play this week. If he does not, he will be playing in 2 weeks. Dak Prescott has an ankle sprain. Looks like it's very mild. Look for him to hopefully rebound this week against the Cardinals. Tyler Eifert is dealing with a back and a knee tendonitis issue. Of those two, it sounds like the knee tendonitis is what is holding him back the most. Knee tendonitis is one of those things that can flare up, and because it's not in the joint, you can't inject it with steroids. So look for this to be a touch-and-go situation, game-time situation to make the decision whether or not he plays. But I would bet that he's likely to play this weekend. DeMarco Murray dealing with a hamstring injury. He's had these hamstring injuries on and off throughout his career. Being that he's older, it's early in the season, dehydration, deconditioning, all of this kind of builds up to lead to hamstring strains. If you don't give it the time it needs now to heal, this can be something that plagues him throughout the entire season. So if he plays, because it sounds like it's a mild hamstring strain, if he plays this week, look for him to have limited snaps. Look for them to take it nice and slow with him, and he may even need IV hydration during the game to keep his fluids going. Randall Cobb has a shoulder injury. Sounds like from an MRI there was no structural damage, and this might be more of a contusion issue. He should be able to play this weekend without any problems. Robert Kelly has a rib fracture. Now, the problem with rib fractures is they can be very painful as the lungs expand when you inhale, when you exert yourself a lot, and when you're breathing hard. And so this limits your ability to play. 2 to 4 weeks for him to return to play is the most likely scenario. Jimmy Graham has an ankle sprain with the Seahawks. He fell back awkwardly and really kind of twisted that ankle. Looks like it's a mild sprain because he was able to return back to playing, so I don't imagine that he will be missing this weekend. And Rex Burkhardt with a rib injury. It sounds like this is more of a bruise. So with some padding and anti-inflammatories, he should be good to go this weekend. And finally, Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski, when he went down, we were concerned about potentially a back issue. Turns out it's more like a groin issue. Sounds like it's very mild. So he should be able to play. But just like the hamstrings, this can be something that is a recurrent issue throughout the entire season if you don't give it the time to heal. So look for them to play him. It may affect his agility a little bit, but I can't imagine that it'll affect him greatly this weekend. I'm Dr. Seelan Parekh, the Fantasy Doctor with thefantasydoctors.com. We do provide you with real-time information as we know it, as we get the insight. And you can get our insights online on Twitter at the Fantasy Doctors. That's DRS. And we can provide you that insight. If you have questions, we're more than happy to field those as well.
Let's talk about Dr. Parekh for a second.
Sure.
All right. The guy's a Duke professor. Okay, he's an orthopedic surgeon.
Yep.
And he hosts a podcast called The Fantasy Doctors. You can check him out on fantasydoctors.com.
And he has props.
He's part of the FanRag Sports Network.
There were props.
Yeah, there were props.
There were props in that video.
The guy's unbelievable, and he's way smarter than the two of us.
Yeah.
So you should definitely listen to what he has to say about injuries. And obviously, he's also started a new website called Fantasy Doctor Analytics, which is unbelievable.
This thing's incredible. I mean, they break down players and project what they're going to be able to do on a week-to-week basis, point-wise, not based on just what they think is going to happen, but based on analytics that they've created, injury history, all that kind of stuff.
At Duke University, which Duke's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Pretty smart people doing this stuff.
This is some great stuff, so we highly recommend checking that out. I know it's helping me with fantasy a lot this year.
And Chris needs a lot of help.
And I obviously do need a lot of help, so I appreciate them. So thank you, Dr. Parekh, for that. Starter sit, right?
Yeah, let's do starter sit, and we are going to kick things off with the number one quarterback this week. That's Matthew Stafford. We're going to talk about this guy.
There he is. Look at him. Doesn't he look good in that jersey? Hold on. I want a sidebar. Fashion there from Matt Stafford. He looks good there. He looks like a guy.
Wait a second. Is this going to be a Chris's crush of the week?
He looks like a guy that just got a huge new contract and is having a good time.
Okay,
he may be a candidate for Chris's crush of the week. I'll be honest.
He's having a pretty good time because he's 2-0.
2-0. Lines are really good.
But they have a tough matchup this week. Are you still starting him against the Atlanta Falcons?
I am always playing Matt Stafford. I am always starting Matt Stafford. This is a guy that just absolutely kills in fantasy as a quarterback. He is always putting up big numbers. He is actually, I have a tough decision this week, Paige.
Okay.
I got Jameis Winston and Matthew Stafford.
All right.
I got Winston against Minnesota. I got Stafford here against Atlanta. Who do I go with?
I'm going with Stafford.
I got Winston in the lineup right now, but just because he was my starter last week, I haven't made any adjustments. I got to stay true to my word. I think I'm actually going to make an adjustment on the fly this week and put Matt Stafford back in there because he has been so good, and I've seen him do it against a good defense. That Cardinals defense that he faced in Week 1, really good. That defense he faced in Week 2 in New York, really good. He's had success against 2 defenses. There's no pass rush really without Vic Beasley there in Atlanta. I don't know if the Lions win the game. I'm going to pick the Falcons to win the football game, but fantasy-wise, I think the Lions will be able to put a lot of points. Absolutely start him this week.
Yeah, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 71% completion percentage throughout the first 2 games. I'm definitely starting Matthew Stafford as we go forward because he's just putting up big numbers.
He's just been so good consistently, and he's shown it against 2 good defenses. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're going to go to another quarterback. That is Jay Cutler.
Okay. Oh.
We're looking at Cutler.
Him. Doesn't he look? He doesn't look as good as Matt Stafford does.
Yeah, this is a great starter sit because Cutler's a guy who ended up on this team 30 days before the season started. Okay. Cutler looked pretty good on the road in his first game. Now, I will tell you why I am starting Jay Cutler this week, and that is because he's playing the New York Jets. I am starting any quarterback that's playing the New York Jets because the New York Jets are a horrible football team, and he is going to put up some big numbers. You have to look at the matchups. There are definitely quarterbacks this week where you probably would have started them over Jay, but this week you start him because you look at the matchups specifically and you go, okay, New York Jets, bad football team, bad defense. I'm starting Jay Cutler this week. Are you starting him?
I am sitting Jay Cutler this week.
Wow, you're wrong.
Do you want to know why, Paige?
Okay, go ahead.
Because he's playing the New York Jets, and I hate this matchup for the Dolphins. I really do. Divisional matchups, the Dolphins and the Jets, this always is just chaos. It's always a disaster. And this is the Jay Cutler game where he should have no business throwing any more than 2 interceptions, and he's going to throw like 2 or 3 picks in this game. You're just going to want to remove him middle of the game. You're going to want to take him and drop him from your fantasy lineup in the middle of the game if you play him this week. I think this is an absolute disaster. They win the football game. Again, it's pure football. I'm going with Miami here, but Jay Cutler is good for at least 2 picks against a Jets team that he's got no business doing it against, and that's because he's Jay Cutler. So he's sitting this week. I'm sitting him there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm aboard the Jay train, and I'm definitely starting him this week. He always puts up good fantasy numbers, even when he was bad with the Bears, and I think he's overall got a better football team with the Miami Dolphins. Now, the third quarterback we're going to, this is Cam Newton.
Well, let's see. What's his stat?
Starter sit. Okay, the reason we're talking about Cam Newton this week
that's not how you throw a football, buddy.
It's because he's had...
Maybe that's why he's not doing so well.
He's had some bad injuries, but this is a nice matchup for him facing the New Orleans Saints defense, who is non-existent. Chris, are you starting Cam Newton this week?
I am. I'm also playing him this week. He is the quarterback of the guy that I'm facing in my big league, and I actually just made the adjustment and put Stafford in there while I was sitting right here. It swayed the quarterback advantage to me.
See?
It was a
See how
5-point
you listen? See
swing.
what happens when you listen to me?
It was a 5-point swing for me in the projected totals. I'm projected to win now by 8 instead of 3. I'm playing Cam because he's practicing all week. There's good reports coming out of their practices all week long. And if you're a Cam Newton owner, you took him because you expect him to have that breakout performance that we all know he can have, where he can run the ball, he can throw the ball. And that Carolina offense really hasn't put together a complete game. So I can understand why you say, you look at the first 2 games, not putting up a whole lot of points, hey, let me get Cam Newton out of there. They're bound to break out. I think you got to stick with Cam. And this is the week where if Cam continues to struggle, he still looks banged up, then you maybe look elsewhere. But I think give him this week against a very bad Saints defense. I think they break out, so I'm starting him.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting Cam Newton this week as well. It's the matchup thing again. You got to play the matchups in fantasy football, and Cam Newton is a great quarterback, and he's going to rebound this week. He's going to have a lot of points, and don't worry, he's playing the New Orleans Saints. And again, like with the Jets, I'm playing anybody who's playing the New Orleans Saints. The next guy we're looking at is Leonard Fournette, a guy. This is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Look at him.
They are playing a very, very tough defense. That is the Baltimore Ravens. Yep. So this one is hard for me. I'm kind of on the fence here, so I'm going to hear what you have to say first.
So I look, and we all know my thoughts on the Baltimore defense.
They're in the crush category.
And it's because of their secondary. It's because of their ability to get interceptions, and you saw that in what they did against the Browns last week. They can create turnovers. I saw Leonard Fournette go up against one of the best defensive lines in all of football with J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney of the Houston Texans. And that was his rookie debut. And he rushed for over 100 yards and got in the end zone. So Leonard Fournette has played a tough defense already this season, and he's had success. Now, he had struggles last week against Tennessee, but they were down in that game late, and Blake Bortles had to throw the ball, and we all know what happens when Blake Bortles has to drop back and throw the football. It doesn't end well for Jacksonville. I think this is a better game for Leonard Fournette and the Jaguars because I think it's a close game, because I don't think the team they're facing is going to be able to put up a whole lot of points because Joe Flacco on that offense, I think Paige and I could play better. So I think Leonard Fournette is a start this week. I think he has a huge game because they're going to rely on the run to kind of break through and crack this defense to maybe open it up for Blake Bortles in the passing game. So I'm starting Leonard this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's definitely not an RB1 for me this week. I feel confident putting him in a flex position if you're in a standard league. I'm probably not starting him in a PPR league. That Baltimore defense I want to respect a little bit more, I think even more than what Chris is saying, just because I think this is a really easy recipe for the Baltimore Ravens. They stuff the box, they make sure that he can't run the football, and they force Blake Bortles to make bad decisions, and this could get ugly really, really fast. Now, the next guy we're looking at, another running back, and this is, he did make the video yesterday. He was the vanilla bean ice cream. That is LeSean McCoy.
He's asking to fumble that football.
That's not great form there, Shady.
For that
not
to
great.
be minus 3 points.
Not great. Okay, but this week, LeSean McCoy, how do you feel about him?
He was the vanilla bean ice cream, right? Why? Because he's consistent and he has an ability to put up that big game that you maybe don't expect because it's got that vanilla connotation to it. You have to start him. I mean, I just don't understand why people want to.
Even after what they did,
right? Absolutely,
Denver Broncos.
Absolutely. Because I mean, I don't know if I've said this to a bunch of people. I've said it behind the scenes at the Fan Rank headquarters. I'm taking Buffalo to win this game this week because I think Buffalo is going to win this football game because Denver coming off a big win, coming to the East Coast, playing that early game. I like Buffalo. How they're going to do it? They're going to run the football, and that means a lot of Shady McCoy, and that's going to open up things for Tyrod Taylor. I think they're going to have a lot of success. So I'm playing Shady McCoy this week, and I think everyone likes to be trendy, and they want to get off the bandwagon first, and that's why people are trying to jump off Shady McCoy. I think he has a huge game this week. I'm starting him. I'm starting everybody so far. Everybody's getting started.
You're starting everybody.
Everybody.
Okay, well, I got to address the fact that Colin, who's running the camera, is a big Broncos fan.
He's right behind there, shaking his head at me. I know.
He's giving the stink eye to Chris from behind the camera because what Chris just said is like preposterous, like total chaos. I love Shady, and I'm starting him every week. But you have to look at what happened last week to Ezekiel Elliott, and you have to respect the Denver defense. I know that they're going on the road, and I know they have a huge home field advantage, so I do get that. But I'm still not convinced. I know Chris is aboard the Buffalo Bills train this week. I don't know if I'm ready to say that. I do think it's going to be a closer game than people expect. I do start LeSean McCoy, but I don't feel good about it because the Denver Broncos defense is nothing to scoff at, and I think you better be careful because I think Colin might be looking for you after the show, Chris.
That's fine. He knows where to find me.
He knows where to find you.
I'm sitting right here. Who we got next?
We're going to take a quick break because we got something special for you. We got something special for you that we created mostly because Chris is trying to take over the show. And I just needed to remind him that this is my show and I allow for him to be a part of it.
I was just trying to help the listeners, the viewers out.
He was not trying to help you out. Okay, let's not get it twisted here. He was definitely trying to steal some spotlight. So I got to show you what happened when we filmed a little commercial.
Nico, get the camera over here real quick. What's up, guys? Chris Schubert, host of The Keepers here. I'm here to let you know how you can get
I don't know what's going on here.
Your videos
Chris is definitely not the host of The Keepers. My name's Paige DeMacos, and I'm the host of The Keepers. Definitely not Chris Schubert. You should follow me, _sports page, and send all the videos to me.
This is what I was going to tell them.
Again, I'm the host, not Chris Schubert.
Your team sucks.
That is The Keepers, and I want you to be a part of my segment.
They're going to send you the videos, right?
Paige DeMacos, mine, not Chris's. Right. So make sure you're a part of the show, because really Chris doesn't have any say in what goes on in the show. Yeah. Bye, Chris. So that was fun. That was a good time.
You were out of here. Me and the viewers, we were gonna try to connect there for a little bit. I was gonna tell them how to get involved.
No.
You just came in and you took over. That's fine.
It is
what it is.
It's because, Chris, how many followers do you got on Twitter right now, bud? Okay, then moving on.
Right.
We are going to go to the next guy.
Do you want me to just leave? I'm going to walk off again. I'll just walk off set again. That's
Chris
fine.
is just going to walk off set. We're going to get into the next guy.
How many more guys am I starting? Who are we up to now?
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys left to get through.
So I've started everybody so far. So who do we got next?
We got a guy who's going on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, so he's definitely not starting.
This is Todd Gurley.
So
he's facing the Niners.
Okay.
This guy is a guy who's been up and down. Okay, he's kind of been a little rocky road-ish.
Oh, okay. We did not put him in that ice cream category.
Almost like Ezekiel Elliott, but not quite. Okay, Todd's had his ups and downs. But do we like Todd Gurley tonight? That's tonight against the Niners.
So no, because I don't like anybody who plays offense in any game that isn't played on Thursday night, okay? The offenses are optional on Thursday Night Football. I'm pretty sure that if we made a FanRag Sports football team and we played on Thursday night, we have a chance to win.
Wow.
Thursday night is garbage. It is the worst kind of football. And while I think the Rams win the game and I think Jared Goff looks better, I just don't play anybody in this game. If you look at all the Rams players, you would think they would have an advantage playing against the 49ers, a not-good football team.
Yeah, but you just saw what happened with the Seahawks.
It's Thursday night.
Yeah.
It's just Thursday night football. And even Deshaun Watson, who had those 2 big plays last week, he didn't put up any points.
Yeah, it's
I just don't know how you have any success on Thursday night.
Honestly, where you are with running backs at this point, it's tough to not play a guy like Todd Gurley, especially if you had a guy like David Johnson and you're not feeling as confident about starting some of these guys. But Todd Gurley's a guy that maybe having a flex position in a standard league, you feel more confident starting him in a standard league versus a PPR league. But I'm like Chris. Thursday Night Football is weird. It's not enough rest for these guys.
It's bizarro world.
Well, it's just they shouldn't be playing Thursday Night Football.
And it's bizarro
okay? Every
world.
NFL player doesn't like playing on Thursdays. They haven't had enough rest. Their bodies are not ready to go. And it's always just a ugly, ugly mess with these ugly uniforms that they put out there. It's never good. The color rush thing is bad.
First of all, the Rams jerseys tonight, 7,000 fire emojis. Have you seen them?
Let's just call them
7,000 fire emojis.
7,000 fire emojis is only for like the Blackhawks vintage jersey. Let's be quiet over there. All right, we're moving on to the next guy. I feel like we talk about this guy every week, but after what the Denver defense did to him last week,
is he going to eat this week?
We're talking about Ezekiel Elliott.
Is he going to eat this week?
He is playing
he wants
Monday Night Football. He's playing the Arizona Cardinals. They're traveling. They're going on the road, and he was, shall we say, irrelevant last week. And I know that the Denver, like Bruce Arians said today, do we get to use Denver's players? That's a big fat no, as Colin's saying behind. That's a big no. Okay, we're not going to get to use Denver's players. But I do not like this matchup, and it's more specifically because I'm not sure what I'm seeing from Zeke right now. I'm a little bit more concerned maybe than everybody else is that the character issues are now a part of what's going on the field. I'm still starting him, but I'm not feeling good about it. That's where I am. I'm starting him, but I don't feel good about it.
No, and I talked about this today, and I don't like the personnel matchup here for Ezekiel Elliott because I think despite not having Denver's players, I think the Arizona Cardinals have a lot of the same personnel that can make it work on Monday. Why? Because I think they trust their secondary enough. They trust Patrick Peterson to take away Dez Bryant. They trust Justin Bethel to take away Terrence Williams or Cole Beasley, whoever's the number 2 wide receiver on a given week. It's a flip of a coin, and they can load the box. I mean, they have Hassan Reddick and Carlos Dansby and Tyrann Mathieu, and they may be able to get Dalen Buchanan back this week, and they may very well be able to load the box and put a lot of pressure on Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I say may because I haven't seen them try to do that yet this season, and I need to see it from them because they got a lot of younger players that they're mixing into their lineup. So it's not exactly the case with Denver, as I have established veterans that I've seen do it. Derek Wolfe, Von Miller, I've seen it. I haven't seen it with this group yet in Arizona, so I think Zeke has more success, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has a similar outing to what happened last week. So I'm sitting Ezekiel Elliott this week. I'm sitting him down. He's on the bench.
You're
riding the pine.
Zeke?
He's riding the pine.
I love that saying. Riding the pine.
Ride the pine,
You're
buddy.
putting him on the pine. You're not playing Ezekiel
9 carries
Elliott.
for 8 yards, 8 carries for 9 yards. I don't care what it was. It was disappointing. Your effort's in question. You're now talking about your effort. Now you're going to be a big distraction. You're sitting down this week. Think about it, and then I'll bring you back next week.
Wow. Chris is putting you. You're on. What did you say? You're on notice.
You're on notice, Ezekiel. You're on notice. I'm watching you, buddy.
You're on notice. All right. Next up, Derrick Henry is facing off against the Seahawks. This is at home. They're playing the Seahawks, and you know this guy I know you love. So I'll let you have this one.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I have been trying to tell everybody that would listen that Derrick Henry was going to be the guy in Tennessee before the season was over.
Yes.
And DeMarco Murray just so happened to get hurt last week. It's not the way I envisioned it happening, but DeMarco Murray getting hurt with that hamstring, they expect him to be able to participate this week, but it opened the door for Derrick Henry, and he followed up with a huge game. It was a massive performance from him that established him as a guy that could be the running back one there in Tennessee, and I think you're going to see a lot more of him this week. I have zero issues with starting him because even if Murray is healthy, what Derrick Henry did last week against Jacksonville is there's only going to be more good things to come for him that he's going to play, so he's starting this week.
Yeah, he had 15 fantasy points and a career high 92 yards last week against got
in the end zone.
Yeah,
which is good. That's always a good point boost.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good last week. So I'm starting. I don't like that I'm agreeing with Chris so much, but I am starting Derrick Henry this week as well. Now another guy that's starting tonight, which I hate these Thursday night football matchups.
So this is a sit. We don't have to show it to me. It's a sit.
Okay.
Sit him down.
Gerald Everett.
Sure, sit him down. I don't even care who it was. Could have been Cooper Kupp, who I like. I'm sitting anyone that plays on Thursday night. They're all sitting down. I don't know how many times I have to tell everybody this. Thursday night games are garbage. The trash emoji, okay? That is very, very bad. And I do not expect Gerald Everett to have a good game tonight, despite the fact that the Rams offensively are a much better football team. He's sitting down.
We got into the next one a little early, but that's okay. He's coming up next. That's your boy, Hunter Henry. He is playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I do not like that matchup at all. I don't like anybody playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know how Chris feels about Hunter Henry. He put him on notice. He had a bounce back week, and now he's in a tough position because he put him on notice, and then he sat him, and he had a good game, and now I know what's going to happen. Chris is going to start him, and he's going to suck again. So, Chris, what are you doing this week,
bud? The cycle's going to continue. I'm going to play him this week. He's going to have no catches, give me 0 points. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to yell. I might curse on air. We don't want that.
I do. I want it. I definitely want it.
I'm going to make a grave mistake here. Hunter Henry, you're riding the pine again, buddy. You're sitting down. I'm sitting you down. The Chiefs' defense, I don't like it. You're sitting down. If you have 2 straight good games, you'll work your way back in the lineup, but I'm sitting you down, buddy. Sitting him down.
Are you actually going to sit him down? Because I kind of have he's going to have itchy fantasy football finger.
I will go to the team
that has... A lot of people suffer from this.
I will go to the team that has him.
They know their head tells them to do something, and then they're like, and they have itchy fantasy football finger, and they do something stupid. That's Chris.
I'm going to go to the team that has him right now. He's sitting down. I'm going to do it right here on the show.
We'll see.
Hunter Henry's actually in his tight end.
He's in going to make a bad
in our league. That we have with the podcast, we played Hunter Henry last week. Now, it didn't matter because we lost.
Yeah, but he had a good week.
He is sitting down, and David Njoku is going in with Cleveland Titans.
I like it.
I just did it live. It's done.
Any parting thoughts, Chris? We got all the way start and sit 'em, and we're going to be back on Sunday morning, we'll remind you. But that's Pigskin with Pancakes, but we want you to watch on Fantasy Sports.
So we'll be back on Sunday, day of games, to break down all the fantasy implications for all the matchups, which should be a good time.
And Jamie Eisner will be there. He'll be
there too. He's going to return. As much as I don't want to share the couch, I will be sharing the couch with him. So we'll be doing that, breaking down all the matchups and getting everyone ready with injury updates, all that kind of stuff that may have happened over the next couple of days.
And I know that I got a couple more questions while the show is going on. I will get to them. I'll answer you on Twitter. I won't give you Chris's reactions because, I know you want mine.
Pretty upset.
Okay. Well, for Chris Schubert, I'm Paige DeMacos. This has been The Keepers. Hey guys, it's Paige DeMacos from The Keepers, and I want you to be a part of my segment called Your Team Sucks. How do you do that? You find me on Twitter. I am _sports page with an I. You slide into those DMs. This is the one time you can do it. Send me your 30 to 45 second videos talking about why your fantasy football team sucks.
When you score 4 points in a non-PPR league, makes you want to throw up a little bit. So I suck as a fantasy footballer.
Yeah, your team probably sucks.